at least in terms of public consciousness, this has emerged very rapidly, where I don't think anyone was really aware. People were aware of the concept of artificial
Yeah.
intelligence, but they didn't think that it was going to be implemented so comprehensively, so quickly.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT is on what, 4.5 now?
4.
4. And with 4.5, there'll be some sort of an exponential increase in its abilities.
It'll be somewhat better. Each step, from each like half step like that, you kind of, humans have this ability to like get used to any new technology so quickly. The thing that I think was unusual about the launch of ChatGPT 3.5 and then 4 was that people hadn't really been paying attention. And that's part of the reason we deploy. We think it's very important that people and institutions have time to gradually understand this, react, co-design the society that we want with it. And if you just build AGI in secret in a lab and then drop it on the world all at once, I think that's a really bad idea. So we had been trying to talk to the world about this for a while. People, if you don't give people something they can feel and use in their lives, they don't quite take it seriously. Everybody's busy. And so there was this big overhang from where the technology was to where public consciousness was. Now, that's caught up. We've deployed. I think people understand it. I don't expect the jump from like 4 to whenever we finish 4.5, which would be a while. I don't expect that to be the crazy. I think the crazy switch, the crazy adjustment that people have had to go through has mostly happened. I think most people have gone from thinking that AGI was science fiction and very far off to something that is going to happen. And that was like a one-time reframe. And now, every year you get a new iPhone. Over the 15 years or whatever since the launch, they've gotten dramatically better. But iPhone to iPhone, you're like, yeah, okay, it's a little better. But now if you go hold up the first iPhone to the 15 or whatever, that's a big difference. GPT 3.5 to AGI, that'll be a big difference. But along the way, it'll just get incrementally better.
Do you think about the convergence of things like Neuralink and there's a few competing technologies where they're trying to implement some sort of a connection between the human biological system and technology?
Do you want one of those things in your head?
I don't until everybody does.
Right.
And, I have a joke about it, but it's like the idea is like once it gets done, you have to kind of, because everybody's going to have it.
So one of the hard questions about all of the related merge stuff is exactly what you just said. Like, as a society, are we going to let some people merge with AGI and not others? And if we do, then, and you choose not to, like, what does that mean for you?
Right. And will you be protected?
How you get that moment right. If we like imagine like all the way out to the sci-fi future, there've been a lot of sci-fi books written about how you get that moment right. Who gets to do that first? What about people who don't want to? How do you make sure that people that do it first like actually help lift everybody up together?
Yeah.
How do you make sure people who want to just like live their very human life get to do that? That stuff is really hard and honestly so far off from my problems of the day that I don't get to think about that as much as I'd like to, because I do think it's super interesting. But yeah, it seems like if we just think logically, that's going to be a huge challenge at some point, and people are going to want wildly divergent things. But there is a societal question about how we're going to, like, the questions of fairness that come there and what it means for the people who don't do it. Like, super, super complicated. Anyway, on the neural interface side, I'm in the short term, like before we figure out how to upload someone's consciousness into a computer, if that's even possible at all, which I think there's plenty of sides you could take on why it's not. The thing that I find myself most interested in is what we can do without drilling a hole in someone's head. How much of the inner monologue can we read out with an externally mounted device? And if we have a imperfect, low bandwidth, low accuracy neural interface, can people still just learn how to use it really well in a way that's like quite powerful for what they can do with a new computing platform? And my guess is we'll figure that out.
I'm sure you've seen that headpiece. There's a demonstration where there's someone asking someone a question. They have this headpiece on, they think the question, and then they literally Google the question and get the answers through their head.
That's the kind of thing that's the kind of direction we've been exploring.
Yeah. That seems to me to be step one. That's the Pong of the eventual immersive 3D video games. Like you're going to get these first steps, and they're going to seem sort of crude and slow. I mean, it's essentially slower than just asking Siri.
I think if someone built a system where you could think words, doesn't have to be a question, it could just be your passive rambling inner monologue, but certainly could be a question, and that was being fed into GPT-5 or 6, and in your field of vision, the words in response were being displayed, that would be the poem.
Yeah.
That's still that's a very valuable tool to have.
And that seems like that's inevitable.
There's hard work to get there on the neural interface side, but I believe it will happen.
Yeah. I think so too. And my concern is that the initial adopters of this will have such a massive advantage over the general population.
Well, that doesn't concern me because that's like that's just like better, that's a better computer. You're not like jacking your brain into something in a high risk thing. You know what you do when you don't want them? When you take off the glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So that feels fine.
Well, this is just the external device then.
Oh, I think we can do the kind of like read your thoughts with an external device at some point. Read your internal monologue.
Interesting. And do you think we'll be able to communicate with an external device as well, telepathically, or semi-telepathically through technology?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I think so too. My real concern is that once we take the step to use an actual neural interface, when there's an actual operation, and they're using some sort of an implant, and then that implant becomes more sophisticated. It's not the iPhone 1, now it's the iPhone 15. And as these things get better and better, we're on the road to cyborgs. We're on the road to, like, why would you want to be a biological person? Do you really want to live in a fucking log cabin when you can be in the Matrix? I mean, it seems like we're on this path.
We're already a little bit down that path, right? Like if you take away someone's phone and they have to go function in the world today, they're at a disadvantage relative to everybody else. So that's like maybe that's like the lightest weight version of a merge we could imagine. But I think it's worth, like, if we go back to that earlier thing about the one exponential curve, I think it's worth saying we've like lifted off the x-axis already down this path, the tiniest bit. And yeah, even if you don't go all the way to like a neural interface, VR will get so good that some people just don't want to take it off that much.
Right.
And that's fine for them, as long as we can solve this question of how do we like think about what a balance of power means in the world. I think there will be many people, I'm certainly one of them, who's like, actually the human body and the human experience is pretty great. That log cabin in the woods, pretty awesome. I don't want to be there all the time. I'd love to go play the great video game, but like, I'm really happy to get to go there sometimes.
Yeah, there's still human experiences that are just like great human experience, just laughing with friends, you know, kissing someone that you've never kissed before, that you're on a first date. Those kind of things they're real moments. It just laughs, having a glass of wine with a friend and just laughing.
Not quite the same in VR.
Yeah, it's
now,
not.
when the VR goes super far, so you can't, it's like you are jacked in on your brain and you can't tell what's real and what's not. And then everybody gets like super deep on the simulation hypothesis or the like Eastern religion or whatever. And I don't know what happens at that point.